Odell, complete concrete. Odell, complete concrete.
Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. This is a big hillside driveway, partial remove and replace. And after I got this all removed and I started setting some forms, this thing's at about 20% grade. You hear about 2%, 5%, some ADA stuff. And then you get into 20% right here, and it's a whole different ball game. Basically, we have 4 to 5 inch thick concrete here that completely collapsed on the edge because, for one thing, it has no reinforcement. Plus, the water is cross-sloped on this. So the water's coming off the edge, and it's taking the soil with it and undermining it. And then you've got your delivery trucks that are driving up here and breaking the edge off. That's why we're removing a lot of this and replacing it. And there is a plan in progress once we get this removed and replaced to alleviate the runoff, the water runoff. And what he's going to do, and the homeowner is going to do this himself, he's going to dig like a 2 foot by 2 foot deep all along the side of this driveway from top to bottom. And then he's going to lay some drainage fabric in that hole. He's going to lay some clean gravel on top of that, and then fold that drainage fabric over the gravel, and then bury it, basically. So what he's going to have is an area where the water can fall into quickly, go down the hill without pulling dirt with it. And that's the idea of that particular system. It's really similar to, it's kind of like a French drain system, something like that. Here's Eric running the 20-pound sledge, and I had to show him a little trick here. And basically, I've got the chunk lifted in the air. Now what I'm going to do is take a broken piece of concrete, throw it up underneath there, and then let the whole slab fall onto that. And then that should crack it once I let it drop. And you see how it caused that crack? Now I can do that all the way down this whole driveway, but it was good exercise for Eric, so I just kind of lifted it up a little bit here and there and then let him swing at it to get him kind of, in shape. So that's the nice thing about breaking concrete out without reinforcement in there. It comes out really easily, and it's clean and it's reusable. So it can get ground up with minimal effort and then used again for base. You can grind it with wire and steel also. It's going to cost a little bit more, some heavier equipment, and then you also got to use magnets to retrieve the metal. But this stuff is clean and beautiful to grind. What happened, and I didn't have the cameras going. When I first initially got here to unload the tractor, I was here unloading it. Eric wasn't here yet, and I backed up the hill just like the trailer was. And I started bringing the tractor down, and because of the slope and the weight of the tractor going down the ramps, it lifted the back of the truck up. So my parking brake, my emergency brake, nothing was working. So as I'm driving down the ramp, the truck's rolling forward towards that hill. So I had to get off the trailer pretty quickly with that tractor so it would come to a stop. But, that's some things you got to think about when you're on a hillside, little details like that. In other words, another good thing to remember is don't disconnect your trailer when you're parked on a hill. Otherwise, your trailer could just start rolling down the hill because it doesn't have a parking brake. So the concrete we removed was 4 inches deep. My new plan is to go a full 6 to 8 inches deep on the new pour, and I'm going to use a wire mesh reinforcement. Plus I'm going to use some pink bar. I'm going to use 2 of those along the edge on top of the wire. So I'm going to have extra reinforcement on the edge, and we're going to be 6 to 8 inches deep of concrete. Basically, I'm almost building a bridge here. Now, if I had double mat of rebar, then you could consider it a bridge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I got the plate compactor in the front of the bucket, a little extra weight. There's my modified bucket, the big bucket I custom designed to haul wet concrete in. So it's a lot of weight. So when I back drag it with all that weight, a heavy bucket with the compactor in there, it could be dirt or concrete, whatever, anything with some weight. When you drag the bucket, you're helping compact it at the same time. My form lumber I have is some plastic. It's 2x6, reusable plastic formwork. It also is easy to bend on this radius. This particular plastic form liner I got is from Proline. It's expensive initially, but it's well worth it because you can use it for years. Here's a beautiful compactor. The first time I tried this unit out, I let Eric run it. He's ran a couple other models, and what he found out about this is that he's not shaking a whole lot because it has those built-in shock absorbers, and so all the hammering is at the dirt and not on your arms. That was another reason that this actually failed, this hillside, the edge of the driveway, because it wasn't well compacted along there. Because they have a dry stack retaining wall. Then they have just loose dirt thrown behind it that I don't think it was ever compacted. So when I hit it with that jumping jack, it dropped a good 1.5 to 2 inches, boom, right off the bat. So that tells you a little something about the soil compaction. Here we are, we got the first truck arriving. This is a 2-loader. Doesn't look that big square footage wise, but the depth of it really is what eats up the concrete here. This little 2-foot wide strip here, I've got some of that Owens Corning pink bar in there that never rusts and never changes its structure, hot or cold. So it's ideal for here really, to be honest, because it gets hot here and steel can expand and contract. In this case, it won't because it's the heat doesn't affect this stuff or the cold, so it's not going to affect the concrete. With steel, it could rust and it could expand, it could crack the concrete. Even heat will do that with steel. this concrete here on that side is 8 inches deep. So I'm not too sure that the heat would even penetrate that deep. And we're looking at a high temperature out here of about 125 degrees. That's the high. And that's another reason I use a lot of wire mesh out here, because you have a smaller diameter steel, so it's not going to be as affected from hot and cold as like a 1/2 inch piece of rebar. As you can see here, this concrete's going in stiff, about a 4-inch slump, which is what you need on a 20% grade. You need it pretty stiff. And the wire's kind of nice for that, because it kind of grabs it. Plus I've got fiber mesh in here, which helps hold it in place. And then I've got a couple of other goodies in here. I've got a water reducer, which is a plasticizer. I also have a concrete retardant, so it'll give me an extra hour of work time. This is a 3000 psi. But let me tell you that something, when you're brooming and wrapping it up, you know, before the pumper's got his hoses cleaned, you know that the concrete went off fast. And that's really actually what happened here. We were spraying curing compound on this before the pump had cleaned his lines out. So we were about, with both loads and finished, jointed, whole works, about 3 hours. So we were hustling through this whole project. There wasn't any time to stop and think about something or ponder what you're going to do next. You just had to keep moving from one phase to the next. Sometimes you go from rodding to, okay, I'm going to go wash my boots down and get my other boots. But in this case, no, we left our boots on and just went from phase to phase. You can see he's finishing the concrete. That's little John there, and his dad Joe's also on the job here. And then we have Greg. He didn't have a chance to change his boots either, so he's out there trying to catch edges with his rubber boots on. Nobody likes to keep the rubber boots on that long either, really, because they get hot. But sometimes you don't have a choice. And forget about lunch. Forget about a break until the job's done. But look how thick that's going in. I ordered both loads, you know, knowing that the concrete's going to go off quick and I don't like to fight cold joints. I order both loads to come together. This one showed up about 3 minutes after we got done pumping the first one, so it was perfect timing. No cold joint. A lot of guys out there I've noticed, and I've worked for many, and it's not fun. They'll pour the first load and they'll go, okay, let me measure what we got left here. You know, I don't want to buy extra concrete. And then you got 2 hour wait time, and you got a massive cold joint you're just slamming together, throwing water on it, beating on it. I'm trying to make it look pretty, and you never really get it right, but you know, you get to check, and that's about it. In this case, I kind of alleviate those problems and one and done it. I did have a couple of yards extra though on that second load, I have to say, because this thing, the depth, man, kind of threw my calcs off. But I like to go over than under. So I don't want to clean up on top of a cleanup. That's really a heartbreaker. So right there, he's holding that tape out there, getting a center line for the cut. Joe is already up top. He's got his cut halfway through down the middle. And now we cut off the pump and rod so he could joint up without having to walk in the concrete. So we got our center line in. We've got all our joints. This is all less than an hour to this point. Oh, that's where the joint, he couldn't reach it from the bottom, so he had to go up top and add another pull, catch the rest of that center joint. Greg's on the bull float there, 4-foot magnesium. You want to seal up. You don't want to use wood out here, or wood, any kind of wood tools really. You want to seal up everything ASAP, because that might be the last time you have a chance to touch it, so you might just have to broom it at that point. So you got to make it like it's the last time you're going to hit it every time you hit it. Eric's on that wire, pulling that up, making sure that it's in the concrete. So what the wire does really, it's not going to prevent cracking, but what it will do is if it does crack, and you can assume concrete's going to always crack, about 90%, 95% of the time, I can guarantee you that concrete will crack. So what you want to do is try to prevent it from just completely separating and heaving. And that's what reinforcement does. It holds those cracks to a minimal so that you still get a long life of use out of it. Kenny, the pumper, put this right on the money. We didn't really have any extra when we got down here to the bottom. Nothing really to haul away. And not a lot of overflow onto the existing. There's a 1/2-inch edger, 12-inch wide. Look at that, still got his rubber boots on, so he's putting the final trowel on. It still hasn't had time to change his boots yet. And there's the pump truck on the left bottom. He's still there, wrapping his hoses up. The first load just about done. So there was some kind of a French drain right along the side of the old concrete that I removed. You can see the pipe laying up here on the rocks that I dug out. We'll rebury that. But his new system with the gravel, the 2-foot by 2-foot along the outside edge all the way up, is going to take a lot of water in and run it downhill real quick without disturbing the soil. Basically, the old driveway was 12 foot wide. We went 14 feet wide. And so we did 7-foot squares on all the joints. There's a funny trowel just touching it up. We want this a little rough because we are on that 20% grade. I put a smart level on here and checked it out. Down at the bottom, it's the steepest. We're probably 15% near the top of what we did, 20 at the bottom. I'd love to see someone come down this on a skateboard. There's probably guys that can do it. I don't think, even at my best skateboarding days, I don't think I would have took this run. I did do Hill Street though in Signal Hill, California. You might be familiar with that. But that had a great runway when you got to the bottom of the hill. You had like a half a mile. This one you're going to have to turn quick when you hit the bottom. Here's John right here doing some touch-ups down here on the bottom. Here's Greg putting a broom on it. So we could have potentially spent maybe another 30 minutes on this and then broom, and it would have been a lot smoother, a lighter broom finish, but you know, we had to get this rough. Here's Eric with the curing compound, and I had him hit it twice. So he sprayed it once, and then after that cured out all white, the curing compound, then he sprayed it again. Here's Joe on this side holding the broom. Did you know it's hard to keep a broom going straight when it wants to drift downhill on you? You know what would have been ideal? My rope broom, because I could have had two guys, one on each side, and that would have kept it going across really straight. Did you see a couple of those funny trowel marks in there? But they all go away once it's cured out. And you'll see the cured out when we strip. This is kind of an aerial view of the finished product right after we got done brooming and curing. All right, this is the final day on the hill job. We're here bright and early, 5 a.m. Eric beat me to the job today. He's got some of the forms out already. Now we just got to remove the rest of these, push these rocks back down, bury that drain, move those rocks back in against the edge, and just maybe do a little cleanup down here on the bottom. And that should do the trick. Let's take a look how this is curing out overnight. It's almost, you know, it's whiting out in a hurry. If this was just 4-inch, it would have already been completely whited out. Since it's about 6 to 8 inches, it's gonna cure a little bit slower. All right, time to get to work. All right, so we're gonna strip these out. Also, you know what I like to do? I've got my little Milwaukee 9-inch battery cutoff saw, and see what I'm doing here on the intersections in the middle? I'm deepening them both directions. Also on every edge where it meets the sides, I go deeper on the edges and then I cross the middle. That way it ensures that that's going to crack right off of that. Because normally cracks start on the edges. So I deepen the edges and I make sure it stays right down through the middle by cutting it both ways there. I just go a little bit deeper, not through the wire mesh, but I just give it an extra inch. Because I am 6 to 8 inches thick through here, so I've got a lot of depth. And you're technically supposed to be 25% of your depth of concrete for a good control joint. So, you know, when you get to that point, it's good to deepen them. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button. That way you'll be notified on the next upload. And you never know, I might have another tool giveaway. And we have that winner. He's going to put a post as soon as he gets it. I just talked to him today through email that he's going to post it as soon as he receives it. But I had a really difficult time with the post office here in my area. They lost the package, got sent back to me. And then they thought I didn't pay for it because they forgot to stick the postage on the box. They just threw it in the bin. And then I had to retrieve my receipt so I could get them to pay for the shipping again. It was a real nightmare, but he's going to get it and he's going to post. We're going to post it on community and see where it goes from there. Have a good one. Bye.